Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into something pretty fundamental for RC maintenance, Tamiya's greases.
Yeah, specifically the anti-wear grease versus the molybdenum grease.
Exactly. You've probably seen both tubes, maybe wondered, which one actually goes where for the best performance.
It gets confusing fast, right? Lots of opinions out there.
Totally. So our mission today is to cut through that. We'll look at Tamiya's own info, but also what experienced users, the community, actually do.
And hopefully give you some clear takeaways. Tamiya is obviously huge in RC, so their stuff matters.
Right. Proper lubrication is key. So first question for you listening. Ever been stuck holding both tubes, wondering about your gears or joints?
I think we've all been there. Let's start with Tamiya's official line. What do they say about the anti-wear grease, the AWG?
Okay, so that's the little blue tube, usually 3 grams. Tamiya calls it high viscosity.
Meaning thick, sticky stuff?
Yeah, and they say it keeps its integrity at higher temperatures.
Okay, useful.
And they recommend it for differential gear and drive shaft, also universal shafts and joints.
So mostly drivetrain components, sounds like. Specifics on what's in it.
Not really much, no. Very focused on application. Some folks think it's lithium-based, but Tamiya doesn't explicitly state it.
Interesting. Okay, what about the molybdenum grease? That's the gray tube, right?
Right, the bigger 10-gram tube.
Yeah.
Here, they do name an ingredient, molybdenum disulfide.
Ah, MOS2. That's a well-known solid lubricant.
Yeah, they say it gives anti-friction properties.
Makes sense. Lower friction is the goal there.
And they recommend this one for RC gearboxes, gears and moving parts, both plastic and metal, and also bearings.
And they specifically say it's okay for plastic.
Explicitly, yes. Safe for plastic gears, which is a big point.
Definitely addresses a common worry, but again, probably not much detail in the base oil, I'm guessing.
Yep, same deal. Community often assumes lithium soap again, but it's not official. Tamiya focuses on what it does, where it goes.
So qualitative descriptions over, detailed tech specs.
Exactly. So let's dig a bit deeper ourselves. How do these actually function differently?
Well, the AWG, being high viscosity and sticky, relies on forming a thick, persistent film. It physically separates the parts.
Like a cushion?
Sort of, yeah. And that stickiness, that tackiness, is really what contributes to the limit and slip effect people talk about in gear diffs. It resists the gears spinning freely against each other.
Gotcha. And the Moly grease.
That's all about the molybdenum disulfide, the MOS2. It's a solid lubricant that embeds itself onto the surfaces, especially under high pressure.
Forming like a slippery layer.
Exactly. A low-friction tribofilm, they call it. So it actively reduces sliding friction rather than just relying on thickness.
So properties-wise,
Yeah.
AWG is thick, sticky blue. Moly is maybe medium viscosity, slippery, dark gray, or black.
That sounds about right, based on experience. Both claim decent temperature stability, but again, qualitatively.
Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. Where Tamiya says to use them versus what the community actually does. Gear differentials first.
Right. Officially, Tamiya points to AWG for in the differential, and Moly for gearboxes generally.
But the community. For non-sealed gear diffs, it's overwhelmingly AWG inside the diff.
Yeah, precisely because of that stickiness. They use it to tune the diff action, get that limited slip for better handling, especially off-road or on loose surfaces.
And they often say don't use Moly in there.
Often, yeah. Because Moly is too slippery, it can cause the diff to diff out too easily. One wheel spins freely with no power to the other, the opposite of limited slip.
Okay, that makes sense. What about transmission gears? Inside the main gearbox.
Tamiya says Moly for gearboxes. The community often agrees, especially for metal-on-metal gears. Moly's anti-friction is great there.
But what about plastic gears? Tamiya says Moly is safe.
True, but many experienced builders actually prefer Tamiya's white ceramic grease HG for plastic gears, particularly plastic on plastic.
Even though Moly is officially okay? Why?
Some feel ceramic grease is maybe smoother for plastic or has less long-term wear concerns, though that's debated. And generally the advice is light coating. Whatever you use, don't pack it.
Good tip. Joints and drive shafts next. Tamiya mentions AWG for shafts joints, Moly for moving parts. A bit vague.
It is. The community adds a big caveat here, especially for off-road buggies or trucks.
Dirt.
Exactly. Greasing exposed dog bones or universal joints can just attract grit, turning the grease into grinding paste. Not good.
So what's the alternative?
Often, running them dry or using a specific dry lubricant that doesn't attract dirt. Grease, like AWG or a dedicated joint grease, is more accepted for sealed CVDs where dirt can't get in easily.
Right, environment matters. Bearings. Tamiya says Moly works.
They do for plastic or metal bushings, but for high-speed ball bearings, the community almost universally says no.
Really? Why not?
There's a concern that the solid MOS2 particles could actually be abrasive at high speeds inside a precision ball bearing, causing wear or drag.
Ah, okay. So what's preferred for ball bearings?
Light bearing oil, almost always. Specifically designed for low drag and high speed.
But AWG sometimes gets used in thrust bearings.
Yeah, in ball differentials, that's a different application. Lower speed, high pressure. The stickiness of AWG helps keep the balls in place and handles the thrust load.
Okay, let's quickly sum up pros and cons then. AWG pros, that limited slip effect stays put, good for high temp load in the right spot.
AWG cons, attracts dirt if exposed, maybe a bit draggy, and comes in that tiny tube.
Moly pros, excellent anti-friction, great for metal gears, officially plastic safe, bigger tube.
Moly cons can cause diff out where you don't want it, potential issues in ball bearings may be less tacky, so it might fling off easier in some cases, and that subtle community debate about long-term plastic effects.
So the quick guide based on all this.
Generally, AWG and gear diffs for that limited slip. Moly on metal transmission gears.
Consider ceramic grease for plastic transmission gears.
Be really careful greasing exposed off-road joints. Maybe use dry lube or just clean often.
And definitely use bearing oil, not grease, for your ball bearings.
That seems to be the consensus, blending official advice with practical experience.
So here's something to think about. Notice how the RC community's collective wisdom often tweaks, refines, or sometimes even goes against the manufacturer's instructions.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Practical application versus maybe idealized lab conditions or broader recommendations.
What does that tell you about applying instructions in the real world? And what other seemingly straightforward RC tasks, maybe like setting suspension or choosing tires, might have these hidden depths that only come out through experience?
Definitely food for thought. You learn a lot just by doing and listening to others who do.
Absolutely. Thanks for diving deep with us today on Tamiya Greases.